So imagine, you're riding your bike and all of a sudden the entire world loses electricity. And in that process, you run through a stop sign. And in that process, you run through a stoplight and you get hit by a bus. When you wake up, you're the only person that remembers your favorite band. You remember all their songs, how to play them, all the lyrics, but no one else knows of this band at all. What would you do? Well, that's the premise of the movie Yesterday. Hi, I'm Blue Sirens, lo-fi musician and producer, and this is where I hang out on the internet and I talk about anything related to music. It can be anime, comic books, movies, gear, whatever it is, you can find it here. And today I'm going to be talking about the movie Yesterday. So the movie Yesterday follows Jack Mellick, played by Hamish Patel. And in this movie, he's kind of a failed musician doing gigs here and there and sort of kind of dating a elementary school teacher. And he of course gets hit by a bus and wakes up and no one remembers his favorite band. Not a single song, nothing about them. And his favorite band just happens to be the Beatles. And he knows all their songs, how to play them, all the lyrics. And so he decides, if no one remembers this band, I can write their songs, release them to the world, and take credit for them. And so he embarks on this journey of trying to get people into the music of the Beatles. But of course, no one remembers who the Beatles are, and he gets to take all the credit for it. And at first, it seems like he's kind of crazy. No one thinks these songs are like great. They think they're good, but they're like, oh, you just wrote them. They can't be that great. So he goes, he records some songs, and he starts to blow up. In fact, he even plays a local TV station, and who else finds about him? It's Ed Sheeran, which makes sense because this movie does take place in the UK. So Ed Sheeran discovers him and says, hey, why don't you come on tour with me? You're obviously very talented. They have a song write-off where they each have to make a song for scratch. Jack Mellick obviously pulls like one of the best Beatles songs out of his pocket, The Long and Winding Road, and kind of defeats him essentially and gets offered a record deal. And through this process of him writing songs and exploring the music industry, seeing how corrupt it is and how they won't let him enjoy his vision of what these songs should be like, because it's not really his vision, of course, it's the Beatles' vision, he finds that there's two other people on Earth that actually remember the Beatles, which is like his biggest fear this entire time, is that someone else will remember who the Beatles are, and it's just not him that knows about the Beatles and will kind of ruin him and point him out as being a fraud, which is a legitimate fear if you're kind of like stealing other people's stuff. But in this world, just no one knows who the Beatles are. So to him, it doesn't really matter. But the two people that do find him, they're actually very grateful for him because they've never been able to experience the Beatles' music since no one knows who they are, since this power outage happened. But since he's been able to provide them the songs of the Beatles, they can enjoy them once again. But still, internally, Jack Mellick is struggling with, this isn't my music. I shouldn't be taking credit for it. I shouldn't be playing on these giant stages or making all this money or getting all this attention. And it kind of starts to interfere with his personal life too, because the teacher that he's been kind of dating and kind of falling in love with all these years is now kind of being tested with these relationships because he's now super famous. Everyone wants to be with him, and Jack doesn't seem like he's necessarily chosen her. She's actually started to date someone else that helped him record some of these songs in the very beginning. So he's feeling conflicted, she's kind of feeling conflicted, and he overall is just like, I don't know what to do with something that's not mine. I can't take ownership of it. And there's a really beautiful moment in the movie that's kind of like that what if moment of, if I took this stuff from someone else, would I ever be able to like meet those people and see what they say? Well, he actually gets to meet a version of John Lennon that is still alive because he never was in the Beatles. And it's a very touching scene of art and revelation and what like music and art in general just means to people. And Jack ultimately decides, I'm going to say I'm a fraud, I'm not going to release any more music, and call it quits at a concert. But it comes a little bit full circle because as soon as he quits doing music and he's finally said, I want to fall in love with the girl that I've been with all along, he drops the line at the very end of the movie saying, wow, I guess this is what it's like to be Harry Potter at the end of one of the Harry Potter books, like closing a chapter. And his girlfriend says, "Who's Harry Potter?" And so it starts this cycle all over again of, does he choose to have this art come into the world that people would definitely enjoy, but he's the only one that would know about it, so is he going to take credit for it? So it's a fun movie. There's a lot of big what if questions that I think musicians ask themselves. Like, every time we hear a great song, we're like, wow, I could have written that, but I don't know if we actually could have. But there's some songs that are just so good we wish we would have written them. And so when we see that these artists are blowing up, or we just really like this song, we often put ourselves in the shoes of these other artists to be like, wow, what would happen if I was the one that wrote that Arctic Monkey track or wrote that famous lo-fi song? What would that be like? And this movie explores that pretty well and deals pretty accurate, I think, of what the conflicts of being famous overnight, becoming like the world's greatest songwriter in an instant is kind of like. There's tons of pressure, and in the end of the day, it reflects, I think, the purest thing that artists want is they just want to make art, and all this pressure and attention kind of just distracts them from it. So I think it makes sense and shows a little bit of validity to why artists are kind of reclusive. They don't want to come out a lot. They don't want to be in the spotlight because they just want to make art that they enjoy and that I like. And all this pressure and attention from record labels and fans, while some of it is appreciated, I'm sure, distracts them from being able to do what they really want to do, is make art that connects with people, that shares their experiences. And that's where this double-edged sword comes in for Jack, because while these songs do connect with people and share an experience, it's just not his experience. And so the conflict is even deeper for him in this movie. This movie overall was kind of swept under the rug. I don't think a lot of people saw it. I saw it for the first time on an airplane, and I watched it again recently to watch this video, and I think the movie still holds up. I think the subject matter just wasn't on point for a lot of people or drew a lot of people to the movie theater, and that's too bad because it's a good movie. I don't think it's for everyone because you've got to be into music and, want like this feel good kind of like love story to kind of happen. But overall, like, this is a solid 8 out of 10 for me. It's a pretty good movie. If you're going on a trip or you just want something to feel good about, this is definitely a movie that I would recommend putting on. And if you're a fan of the Beatles or a musician yourself, you're going to love it even more because the way they explore these songs and try to recreate them in the modern day as if no one else had ever heard of them before is a lot of fun. There's a scene in it where Jack is trying to share with his parents and their friends the song Let It Be for the very first time, one of the Beatles' best songs. And his parents and their friends just keep interrupting him, thinking like, oh yeah, it's just Jack, it's just one of his silly songs. He's a failed musician. But in reality, it's like, this is one of the best songs in our reality that has ever probably existed, and one of the best ones from the Beatles for sure. So there's these little fun moments where you're like, guys, you don't realize how important this music is or how great it is, and you're just moving and sweeping this guy's ambitions under the rug. So I think it's very relatable for musicians for sure when you make something that's special and you're trying to share it with people and they just don't get it, or they don't even care to pay attention to it. They're just like, it's whatever, I'm going to be on my phone. I had a lot of fun watching yesterday. You can find it online to rent. I haven't been able to find it on a single streaming service, but for only a couple dollars, you can rent it and see what it's all about and see if you like it for yourself. And if you do like it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time,